Ladies and gentlemen, and members of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, and distinguished guests, we are gathered here tonight to hear an important announcement. An announcement that we, as well as millions of Americans, have been waiting to hear. So, without further delay, it is my privilege to introduce our speaker for this evening, and he comes to you with a light heart. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Patrick Paulsen.
Thank you, Dick, Tom, the entire Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, and the vast affiliated stations, the Columbia Television Network, Thomas H. Dawson, President, and my fellow Americans. As I look over this large gathering, I find that I know a great many of you, some personally, some by reputation, others by fear. I appreciate your courtesy in hearing me tonight, but let's not plunge right to the point. We live in a time of decision, a time of dissent, a time of de trouble obscene. 100 years from now, history will rear its ugly head and say, this was mankind's golden era. I'm sure you've been hearing the rumors that I was considering the possibility of running for the presidency of the United States. Up to this time, I've done my best to dispel these rumors, rumors of the worst kind, true rumors. In response to the overwhelming groundswell of public demand, realizing that each of us must share his abilities for the glory of flag and country, I will now give you my answer. Now I ask you, will I solve economic problems? Will I ease the causes of racial tension? Will I bring a peaceful end to the war in Vietnam? Will I improve America's foreign relations? Sure, why not? And most important, would I be your president? Let me say this about that. I'm honest enough to admit that I do have some drawbacks and disadvantages as a candidate. Although I am a professional comedian, some of my critics maintain that this alone is not enough. I cannot deny that I stand before you untested and inexperienced. I've spent only 2 years in television, never as a romantic lead or a song and dance man. Now that you know I'm a candidate, for those of you who may not be familiar with the other candidates and non-candidates, let me offer a factual, non-partisan analysis. My own affectionate favorite is Richard Nixon. This humble man has once again offered himself as a candidate on the basis of his experience, and I think we should accept him on that basis. After all, why go to the trouble of breaking in a new loser? Mr. Nixon has always managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. The other Republican candidate officially in the race is George Romney. However, his illusions of peace in Vietnam have indicated he would rather be right than Republican. There's a big campaign in California to nominate Ronald Reagan for the presidency. You also hear a lot of talk for Donald Duck. Some people are still booming Charles Percy as a possible candidate. But I ask you, could you hold your head up high and have any confidence in a leader named President Percy? The only other Republican hope is Governor Nelson Rockefeller of New York. He says that he will stay on as governor of New York. But that's a lot of garbage. Let us not overlook George Wallace, the mouth that roared. He says he's running because he wants to give the people a choice. And he wants the choice right there in black or white. only candidate running against President Johnston in the Democratic Party, Senator Eugene McCarthy of Minnesota. I do not believe that this man has a chance to win. How can he possibly win on such an anti-American platform? He has admitted he is a peace candidate. All over the country, people are still asking about Bobby Kennedy. Will he run for the presidency this year, or will he be content to wait until 1972? The answer is definitely, who knows? However, it is a known fact that he has 10 children. Therefore, I would like to take this opportunity to place the name of Robert F. Kennedy before you in nomination for the office of Mother Nature. That brings us to the final paragraph of this unbiased, nonpartisan hatchet job leading presidential prospects. Last but perhaps least is the incumbent Lyndon Baines Johnson. Whatever we may think of him, and I think levity would be inappropriate at this time, let us be realistic. President Johnston and his critics are poles apart. The polls show that only 3 people in the entire country would receive more votes than LBJ if the election were held today: William Jennings Bryan, Wendell Willkie, and Dizzy Gillespie. I must admit, President Johnston always hits the nail with his head. There you have it, the National Honor Roll for 1968. As for me, my campaign efforts will be limited to old-fashioned, honorable, stand-up mud-slinging and name-calling. I represent the straight-talking American Government Party, the STAG Party, dedicated to callous sports, farms, the incoming American people. In conclusion, I stand proudly before you tonight as a man unbound by political ties, a man free from the pressures of tradition and convention, a man who is an independent candidate. In other words, I'm nobody's fool.